Hello! I've recently revisited this video to include every single non-destructive technique for opening pin tumbler locks that I know of. I'll demonstrate all 28 techniques in this video, and I want you to tell me in the comments below if you knew about all of them. Let's go! First up, we have raking, a technique where a rake pick is used to act on multiple pins at the same time while a turning force is applied to the lock. Either random or predefined motions of the rake pick are used in the lock until all the pins are set and the lock opens. Next, we have single pin picking, a more controlled and methodical technique where turning force is applied to the lock and the binding pins are picked one at a time using a hook lock pick until all the pins are finally set at the shear line, and again we get an open. Some locks are made so badly that you can literally hit the body or shackle with a hammer to knock the shackle locking pawls out of the way and get an open. Some unprotected thumb turn locks can be opened with a little piece of bent wire that's able to bypass the locking pins completely and act directly on the cam as if the thumb turn was being operated from the other side. It takes a little bit of wriggling, but once you've got it, just look how that lock opens as if it was being turned. Many susceptible older aluminium bodied locks like this that don't have an anti-bypass wafer can be bypassed. The bypass tool slides past the pins down inside to the back of the lock where the actuator is able to be turned directly, popping the shackle open quickly. Padlocks with unprotected locking pawls can have the pawls retracted manually using a bypass knife. The tool slides down the keyway to retract the locking pawls on both sides of the shackle in turn while the shackle itself is pulled upwards. Once the locking pawls are pulled out of the way, the lock should open up. Using a kinetic attack tool, it's possible to zip open some locks by rapidly withdrawing the tool while applying some light turning force to the core. It's surprising how many locks are still vulnerable to this zipping technique once it's mastered. There are now some very expensive self-impressioning lock picks available for high security dimple locks. These tools have tiny resettable sliders that align with each pin chamber in a lock. By rocking the tool back and forth in the lock, binding pins push the sliders into position one by one until all the pins are set and the lock opens. Once it's open, the tool can be retracted and the tip of the tool then effectively becomes a clone of the original key. Other types of lock, like this tubular lock, also have self-impressioning tools available that work in a very similar way. Fingers on the tip of the tool that align with the pins in the lock self-impression when the tool is inserted and moved back and forth in the keyway. Once again, the result of the impressioning is a clone of the original key. Foil impressioning is a really cool technique that can be used in standard, dimple and tubular locks with the right equipment. Here we see a ridge of thick foil placed into an impressioning handle and then inserted into the lock. Like the self-impressioning tools, when the tool is rocked back and forth, the binding pins will push the foil down slowly until the pattern in the foil takes the shape of the original key. Here's the same technique again, but this time using a handle designed for the cheaper smiley keyway dimple locks. Foil impressioning is a technique that requires a little bit of patience as it can take a number of minutes before a lock finally opens. There is another bypass that's similar to the shackle pawl bypass, but it works with shop shutter locks. In this technique, the bypass knife is used to directly draw back the locking mechanism, or it can be used to draw back the mechanism that's securing the shackle bolt in some vulnerable padlock models. This does only work in a few older lock designs, but it's a very satisfying technique to perform. For some locks, like TSA travel locks, UK Fire Brigade locks, locker locks and many other types, it's possible to directly purchase master keys that are able to open all locks of that type. Next is a classic overlifting technique using cone picks, where both the driver pins and the key pins are lifted out of the core, allowing the lock to be turned open. This only works in a few susceptible lock models with wide open keyways able to accommodate the large cone picks, but it's a lot of fun when you find a new lock that this technique works on. Even higher security locks can sometimes be susceptible. A related technique is single pin overlifting, where you need a deep enough hook to be able to push up both the key pin and the driver pin up into the Bible and overlift each pin stack in turn. Relatively recently, 2-in-1 lockpicks for standard pin tumblers have been developed. The tools act like a turning tool and hook lockpick all in one, and they have markings on the handle that allow you to position the picking tip accurately to feel for the binding pins in the lock each time while you're picking it. They can take a little while to get used to, and while there's a knack to using the tools, they can make picking higher security cylinders a lot easier for most users. Here you can see me going through the lock pin by pin until finally, once all the binding pins are pressed down, the core will turn. There are even 2-in-1 lockpick tools designed to rake locks open instead of just single pin picking them. Here is a 2-in-1 tool designed for a 4-sided cross key lock, where there are 4 separate tips in the tool which are used to rake each of the 4 sides of the lock simultaneously. Of course, being 4 sides, you will need to do this technique 4 different times, a quarter turn each, to rotate the lock core 1 full rotation. Most modern locks have a little ridge or step inside the keyway to avoid this next attack. This is the front shim attack, and this only works on locks without this little step. A shim of metal is inserted into the front of the lock between the core and the body, and the pins lifted without any skill to the point the shim is able to pass between the key and the driver pins. Once the shim is all the way to the back of the lock, the whole core can easily be turned. Working on many locks even to this day are padlock shackle shims. These shims are curved pieces of metal designed to slide down the sides of the shackle to push back the locking pulls. Once the shims are placed in either side of the lock, the shackle can be pulled straight out of the padlock. Lock bumping uses special keys called bump keys that are cut to the lowest key cuts. When inserted into a lock most of the way in, a hammer can then be used to hit the key while applying a gentle turning force. The ramped key cuts strike all the key pins in the lock at the same time, making the driver pins bounce upwards in turn as the kinetic energy is passed onto them. Once all the driver pins reach the shear line, the core can be turned and the lock opened. Using a little rubber ring can allow the user to strike the bump key multiple times in a row without having to manually reset the bump key each strike. Some locks have tryout keys, which are bunches of pseudo keys, all with different key cuts. The user has to laboriously go through each key in turn until a working key is found and the lock is able to be opened. Jiggler keys, in comparison, only slightly resemble real keys. These keys are used to jiggle open locks while applying a gentle turning force at the same time, so the jiggler keys are acting as a rake pick and a turning tool. I'm cheating with this next one, as this is a warded lock and not a pin tumbler, but they're often confused. Here, a key is cut down to make a skeletonized version called a skeleton key that bypasses the warding in the lock to act directly on the locking latch. Commercial skeleton keys can also be purchased, and these work on a much larger range of warded locks. Reverse picking is a difficult technique that relies on lifting up all the driver pins at the same time while applying a turning force strong enough to keep all the pins in place. Pressure is then slowly released from the turning tool. This allows each pin in turn to slowly drop back down to the shear line in the opposite way as they would in single pin picking, and once all of them are at the shear line, of course, the lock will open. Electropicks act much like an automatic bump key, striking the key pins multiple times a second, while feather-like turning force is applied to the lock. Once all the driver pins are jostled randomly above the shear line, the lock should open right up. There are pick guns and snup guns that work in the same way, striking all the pins at the same time, just using manual force to do so, and they can also be super effective. The penultimate technique here is key impressioning, where a blank uncut key is turned and jiggled inside a lock. The key pins that are binding will leave small marks on the blank which can be filed away lightly and with a little bit of care. This process of presenting the key to the lock Turning, jiggling and filing away the marks is repeated over and over and over, usually for many minutes, until eventually the key turns the lock. The final result should accurately resemble the original key. The final technique to show you is a form of privilege escalation, where a copy of a key that you only have temporary access to is cast from low melting point metal. The key is pressed into a modelling clay mould and then removed. The metal, which melts at around 70 degrees centigrade, often woods or fields metal, is then melted and poured into the prepared mould. Once the metal has cooled, the cast key can be removed and carefully cleaned. It'll at this point be an exact, if quite brittle, replica of the original key, and certainly able to open a lock if used with care. Anyway, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please leave a like, and if you want to watch more content like this, please consider subscribing, as it really helps my channel out. And I'll see you all next time.